Hey guys, this is extremewirehead, and well, the worlds of League of Legends was quite an interesting thing. I haven't watched it all the way through, but so far it's been quite exciting. Lots of interesting things happening. It's always fun to watch League of Legends every now and again, just because of how much it's changed for in the past few years, and you know even today it just feels like an over complicated version of basketball to me, not in the bad way but in probably the most fun way possible. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. Rather, what I wanted to talk about is one of my favorite YouTubers right now is MKBHD, and he mentioned something in his latest video about cell phones and technology in general moving at a pace that's pretty alright. And I just wanted to talk about that. A couple of years ago, if you had been in the market for phones, you'd notice that there's a lot of really cheap phones coming out in the market. Lots of Chinese, lots of really cheap models, and a lot of them were pretty bad, but they get the job done for most people. We are getting to the point where even those cheap models are pretty good. Gone are the days where the only people who could do voice calls are people who could get Skype or an iPhone running. Even the really cheap Android phones seem to have been able to get to the point where you can have voiceovers with video feeds, watching YouTube videos, everybody on a Facebook. We're getting to that point where technology is getting good enough that even the everyday person can get a pretty sizable amount of computing power into a tiny device with a reasonable battery. Just makes you think about what the future of technology is going to be like in a few years. We're getting to that point where you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars just to get the latest and greatest, but rather a little bit, just a little bit less, and you've still got a functioning, completely viable product. And that's pretty cool. Lots of interesting things are happening in technology nowadays. You've got all these amazing things. And at the moment, we're still expanding on what we can do with the computer. And the cell phone technology industry by itself is moving in leaps and bounds. And I think that's a wonderful thing, and one that I hope will continue for as long as it can go. I can imagine that all of this was is probably leading us towards the day where the cell phone becomes basically something that you just can't live without and becomes a part of everyone's lives, to the point where it could potentially be a part of your body. And I'm not so sure about that. I still think that the distinction needs to be made, but transhumanists can argue all they want about the benefits and advantages. I still think of them as a tool, and at the moment, that's all they are to me. But all that being said, it's quite interesting that we can push it this far, and I am a vehement advocate of the fact that I would prefer if charging wasn't a thing, if it was a true assistant, a true personal this digital assistant, in the fact that I didn't need to think about electronic charging so often. I could use it without additional devices. There needs to be as little input from me to get the job done as possible. And I think that if battery technology and all these things keep at this pace, I may see a future that comes very close to those things. And I think it'll be a very interesting future. And I hope that it comes soon. I don't think it can come soon enough. Anyway, this has been Extreme Wirehead on my thoughts on electronic technology. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.